Hi everyone, we just wanted to share with you a little bit about our online journey.
So I think one of the things that is probably important to establish is the fact that this particular group, which actually is including Karen, who's not able to be with us because she's being mama and balancing kids and so on and so forth, that this particular group was pre-established before COVID and before our journey into online church. And the purpose of this group was to help Tim and I work through our thinking for Sunday mornings and the journey that we wanted to take the congregation on. So how Sundays have kind of been established or have been planned out for us in the last probably year, guys, that we've been meeting together, 12 months like this.
Yeah.
Probably in the last year has been, Tim and I have set the vision of our preaching plan or where we think that God is asking us to take the congregation. And we've set that out in a document, and then we've been meeting quarterly, I want to say, 4 or 5 times throughout the year, to talk about the sermon series that have been put in place, and to figure out, okay, how do we play that out in real time in our Sunday morning worship? And so Karen has been part of the decorating of that because we believed that the scene was what helped us and helped the congregation. AV was pivotal as we think about what we're displaying on the screen and how we can better use the resources that we have. And then of course Jared with the band and with CMT to talk about, how can worship bolster the message that God is giving us. And so that has been a great space for us. It's been good for Tim and I because we have been able to release some of the pressure of having to be the only creative minds thinking through what the Lord has placed on our heart. And so that has been really good, and we've seen examples of where that has been really good in our space. So we want to thank you guys and Karen. Thank you, Karen, for your creative thinking, there. And that has been a positive thing that has been put in place, and it's been good. So the natural progression of that was when we got to a place of, oh guys, we're not going to be able to meet in our normal way. We're going to have to push ourselves online. The natural thing for us to do was to turn to this group of people, the few people that we had, that we've already established many conversations with on our Sunday morning worship.
And can have strong conversations.
And can have strong, serious, battling back and forth, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. Pull that same group together to say, all right, what are we going to do? And we really didn't have a lot of time.
No, a couple of days.
The announcement came out we were at officers. What is it called here?
Officers Fellowship.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We were at Officers Fellowship. I think the announcement came out Monday.
Monday, Tuesday. Yeah.
We had our mission team meeting Tuesday.
Yeah.
And we left Wednesday morning.
We
Came back, and that's when I think we met Wednesday night to start saying, okay, this could happen.
And what do we do for Sunday?
What do we do for Sunday? And I think then it was that Thursday, the official announcement came out. But we were already a day ahead because we had thought it through. So, so it was a bit of a steep learning curve.
Yeah, and I think we weren't expecting it that quick either.
No.
Because we kind of joked around a bit on the door. I think we had joked around on the Sunday morning previously.
Yep.
We'll see where this goes over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But, as everyone else experienced, that things snowballed very quickly. And so coming to grips with that over a couple of days was interesting.
Yeah.
And even what we thought on a Monday was different by the time we got to the Thursday, to the Friday, to even the next week.
There for a while, things was changing daily, you know. Yeah.
And that was hard. That was really hard.
It was.
Yeah.
Well, I think initially over that first month, we were trying to catch up every Monday.
Yeah.
And I was saying to someone the other day that we were coming up with a plan for that week, and by the Tuesday morning, and there was one week where even some announcement came out as we were meeting on the Monday night.
Yeah, that's right.
And by the time we got off our Zoom meeting, okay, back to square, let's rebuild the plan.
It was all changed again.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's almost government website on one screen, Zoom on the other.
Yeah, that's right.
And
compare.
then also trying to respond to the Salvation Army's
Correct. Yep. The
response as well.
Yeah, which was another layer of
another
things.
layer of things. So
Yeah, that's right.
there's been a lot to consider. So when we started talking about church, I think actually very quickly as a group, we determined the fact that we did not want it to be, first of all, what everybody else was already doing. And we may have had a window into that because Canada had shut down 2 weeks before we had. And so we had seen what the majority of Salvation Armies in Canada were doing.
Yeah, right.
And you know, we all just kind of said, look, we know we can't produce what we produce on a Sunday morning in the same space and capacity. We know we just don't have the goods. You know, and meaning that in a very positive way. Like, we are not, none of us are professionals in this space at all whatsoever.
And I think like that's a fair point too. The comfortability of our personalities.
Yeah.
You know, you guys are not or wouldn't be as comfortable standing there pretending to preach to a
To an
congregation
empty-
that is
yeah.
clearly not there and effectively preaching to an empty hall, whereas sitting around with a couple of people to bounce things off and engage with completely suits, you know, the way that you guys interact and engage with not just each other but as our church as a whole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it was a comfortable setting, right? And a setting that was similar to the setting at home that people would be sitting in.
Would be sitting in.
And experiencing church,
Yeah.
right? So there's that relatability there too that I think we all felt and agreed on that would be a really good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the questions that I was going to ask, and we'll ask probably a little bit later, but, you know, what we've learned, something that Tim and I have actually learned in the space about each other and us, is that the only word I have for it is that we're very social creatures. Like, so I didn't realize how much I depend on the reactions of other people sitting in the congregation until we've gotten into this space. And the concept of preaching to a camera or preaching to an empty hall actually petrified me because I didn't realize how much I depended upon, like you mentioned, that social interactive space. And that's the journey we've been on in learning. We probably though need to figure out how we do that, right? But
Yeah,
that's just been an interesting part.
It has, because it's feeding on the energy that's in the room.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if you're
yeah.
preaching to an empty hall,
Yeah.
you can't feed on that energy. But if you're sitting in this space,
Yeah.
you've got others with you,
got something to bounce
right? You've
off.
got somebody to bounce off, like Jared was saying, and
Yeah.
it's that energy that's here, and it's that conversation that kind of leads to the spiritual truths that we're talking about.
And you feel that way as well as a worship
Oh,
leader.
100%.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's worship leading or just being part of the team or even conducting a band, like you feed off the responses that you get. And it's not just in that moment, but that also feeds future, you know, whether it's future songs or something like that. I mean, the response that you get and whether you can drag people on that journey with you and help them to encounter God. You know, when you've got 200 faces staring back at you, you know that it's working or it's not working, or you've got to try something different, or all those things. So doing that, and in fact, we had an experience even doing Church on the Couch where some of the stuff for Good Friday that we filmed, and that was different. It was interesting because it was just Tim Ivans and myself, and had nothing to bounce off. So there, I think, being real about the fact that there is still a disconnect, and we're craving for there not to be, and we're trying to do anything possible to, you know, to mitigate that disconnect.
Yeah, it just goes to show that connection is important.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And community is important, and that's
Yeah.
what we've been saying, right? And it's no different in the church space than it is in any other space.
Oh, the wonderful cross. Oh, the wonderful cross. Please become and die and find that I may truly live.
So the night when we were trying to suss out our best strategy, we talked about the fact that we wanted it to be a comfortable space for people, recognizing they were going to be in their living room. Can we create a living room? We thought about that. We thought about the fact that that Tim and I would struggle, if we didn't have people with us, or, that would be a
If we were,
challenge for
if
us.
it was just us and a
Yeah,
camera.
yeah, we
Yeah.
talked about that, and we talked about the fact that we are far from experts in this space, and we just knew that we could not create a Sunday morning situation like what we can have when we're all here together. We can't create, we just can't recreate that. And so we established, those couple of things, but the other part of the conversation that we had was around the opportunities, right? So, and what that conversation, what did that look like? It was,
Well, it's opportunities to reach more than just our congregation,
yeah,
right? To reach beyond that, to the world of social media. I think for me, that's what it was. It was that, it's no longer we're in our hall with our own congregation, but our congregation has really expanded to...
or hopefully would expand, because we didn't know when
Well,
we started.
of course,
but-
that's right.
Yeah.
But not only our community, but it's the rest of Brisbane, other parts of Australia, and even in the UK and in New Zealand and Canada and so on, right? It's like a global congregation, really.
Yeah,
right?
and even the discussions that came around what platform we put it on. Like, do we explore just a church platform that we go, here's the link, church will be on there, or do we use the opportunity to use our social media, which has been built up over the years, and has ended up being the groundwork for us to go online and go, hey, I know we haven't talked church that much. We tell you what's happening, and we still say that God loves you, but we haven't shown you church on here before.
Yeah.
Here's a glimpse of it, and to see that has worked well, and to see that people have responded to that and engaged with that. I think if we're talking about how our group was sort of in the plannings for a couple of years, well, the same thing with the way our social media has been built, and the work that Jess has done on that just led us in a trajectory that we could then easily just flow into.
Yeah, it was a natural progression.
Yeah.
I think it's important too to realize, we talk about how the Holy Spirit speaks to us, and I think in this case, he spoke to us as a group.
Oh, and I would also add to that, I think individually as well.
Yeah.
Because I think when we first sat down and really, we all kind of agreed straight away that we had two options before us. And really, I think it was within 30 seconds that we all just kind of said, look, we've been feeling this way, I've been feeling this way, I've been feeling this way.
And it
just
all came together.
concreted it in. That realisation for me was only that morning that we met, and I had seen Wren Collective, a band, do Forced into Isolation in America, and sitting around a couch, just doing a 10-minute video of them worshipping together. And for me, that was a really powerful actual spiritual moment for me in connecting with God. But that cemented what I had been feeling in terms of when to go. But then when we met, the Spirit led that. Cause,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and it was cemented for everybody else, and we all said, that's it. Right? That's the feel we want. That's that comfortable feel that people can relate to. And we were able to put this together like this. And I think it's been really well received.
Well, we definitely all acknowledged that it would be different from what our people would have
Experience.
been used to.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And we knew that would be a bit of that could be a bit of a challenging journey for our people. And to be honest, probably the first couple of weeks, it was.
Well, it was a challenging journey for us too.
Yes, challenging journey. It was a challenging journey, but we did get some feedback in that, this is not what we're used to, and we knew that would be hard, and we knew that would be a challenge, and we knew that first Sunday it would probably be different than what the majority of people were expecting us to do. Like, we knew that.
The Lord is good and faithful. He will keep us day and night. We can always run to Jesus, Jesus strong and kind, Jesus strong and kind.
while we thought of this in a space of wanting to provide something for our church family, the driver was also providing something for a wider community that have never heard about Jesus.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's holding those two things in tension has been a significant challenge, I think, for all of us.
Yeah.
And something that
significant
we've
challenge.
talked about,
Yeah.
probably if you add it up, hours have gone
Yeah.
into talking
Yep.
talking about that one thing. Like
Yeah.
we can talk about practical things
Yeah.
and all that, and we do that. But so much of our conversation is based around
Yeah.
that type of
Yeah,
conversation.
well, it's striking the balance.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
So even now today, when we go to plan the next Sunday, we will have very intentional conversations about, yes, our people would love to see that or would appreciate that. How does that look to a community that's outside of our
Yep.
walls, or will they understand what's being said in that space,
Or will they connect with
or
it?
will they connect with that, or
Yeah.
like, so that conversation is that tension, because I think it's a tension, is constantly with us as we're discussing and planning for the next week and the next week. And the
It's a
next week.
critical tension
It
too.
is, yeah,
It's
yeah,
critical that we
yeah.
think about that and in
Yeah.
that way, because our audience is no longer, like I said, or our congregation, just our congregation, but it's
Yeah.
so much wider now, right? And our message needs to be helpful for our congregation, but also helpful for those who maybe not experienced the gospel message before. So there's that to think about. I mean, we think about that constantly
Yeah, yeah.
as we're preparing our messages, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and it's important that we do that.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'll often say to you, or you'll say to me, now, someone that doesn't know Christ,
Yeah.
Yeah.
how does that statement sound to them, right?
Yeah.
And it makes you sit back and kind of go, okay, yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Let's reframe that, or
And you
let's.
think
yeah.
think about the language that you
Yeah.
use, right?
Yeah.
And you
I was
think
gonna
about
mention
and you think
language.
Yes,
language
yes.
that
That's
we use
huge.
because
Our Salvation Army language is so unique.
jargon, that's right, and
Yeah.
even down to some of the symbols that we use as an army, some of the songs that we sing as an army that kind of they're army songs, but they may not be necessarily familiar with other people.
Even to call you guys officers, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
conscious if I put your title up, I have to put church pastor.
Yeah,
because,
that's right.
Yes,
Like,
Yeah.
because not everybody would understand what
And,
that means.
and that's become necessary
Yeah.
because our audience has expanded,
Yeah.
or our
Even-
congregation has expanded.
Even saying our names, we forget that there's a whole bunch of people who actually have never seen us before.
Yeah.
So
And so we integrated introductions, right? of
Well, I think
people
it
who-
was 3 weeks before we said, we actually need to the people that are sitting around the couch. We actually
Yeah.
need to introduce them because to a lot of people they're just another face.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
let's try and name that face.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you know the name of the person that you're worshiping with, right? You instantly kind of have a connection. You start to build a connection
Yeah.
with people.
And I think just to add to this part of the conversation, we're not trying to devalue any of those things that we just mentioned.
No.
We're not trying to
No.
devalue the fact that
No.
we would refer to you both as officers, that we would often sing songs that have some language and some jargon in there that, while very familiar for us, might be unfamiliar to other people that are looking in. So we're not trying to devalue that at all, but it's a different space.
Yeah, and it now needs to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's this is something that we've known for like this is we've known that we
Yeah.
need to be careful of those things, but this has even forced it even more
Yeah.
so that now it's becoming part of who we are and what we do, even in our thinking. Hey, I would say.
Yeah. Because I mean,
It's
look,
becoming more natural.
we talk about belonging,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we want people to feel as if they belong, and so sometimes some of those things might cause people to feel like they maybe don't belong. So yeah, we just need to be careful.
Yeah.
We just need to be
Yeah.
careful with that.
Yeah.
the best thing about the online space is though people can still have a feeling of belonging. They could be 1,000 kilometers
Yeah.
away,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they still have the connection with us
Yeah.
because of those direct questions that we had in the planning to go, how do we get this balance right? And I think that means that people from all over the world can go, actually no, I'm engaging with Carindale Salvos here and I feel a part of this. Well, I hope that's the feeling that they have, at least the engagement that people put in.
Yeah, and I think that engagement, Matt,
Yeah.
like you're saying, that's giving us an indication that people are feeling like they belong to what's going on, that they are connecting, because there's been more and more engagement
Yeah.
along the way through the comment section on the live feeds. You know.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because I think that that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And Jared, brought this up in another setting that we were in. But one of the learning things has been,
we've learned that it's not about eyeballs, but that it's about engagement. And
so it's
connection.
not about how many people are watching.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think, when we were speaking about this the other night, I also mentioned that I think that's a really good lesson for us to take, regardless of the setting,
Yeah.
and even regardless of whether we're online or whether we have a physical presence. We're not after just the amount of, bottoms on seats or eyeballs on the screen. We're after real connection, because a connection with whatever we're doing, whether that's church on the couch or a Sunday morning, a deeper connection with that and a deeper engagement with that most of the time will mean a deeper engagement with God. And that's our priority.
Yeah.
So I think that, we want to see people engaging with us, engaging with God, becoming, being servants, how we serve in the church.
Yeah.
So I think that it took us, again, a couple of weeks to figure out that, hey, eyeballs on the screen is good, but engagement is better.
Yeah, and it's so important what you say, because, the mics, the cameras, we've lovingly started to call it the set.
Yeah.
Like, none of this is created to put a spotlight on Carindale Salvos, right? This is a way for us to facilitate the gospel message, and that is what we've continued to really be intentional about putting up front, right? In our conversations, in our messages, in our worship, and the way things are put together. It's all for His glory. I mean, that's what we've really attempted to keep in front of us.
And because of that, it's mission.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
Because
mission.
of that, it's mission.
So
And
mission.
I think, in all our conversations so far, there's been a real desire and heart for mission. How do we make this a missional setting?